So, for one, I'm not a great storyteller, so if I ramble, that's part of the game. So this is about a trip I took to visit my friend Jim in Amsterdam. Jim's a very dear friend, but if you make a list of who's good influences in your life and bad influences in your life, he's on both lists. So, but he's a very dear friend, and visually you have to imagine maybe the Big Lebowski, you know, with the robe and the beard and everything else. So he's kind of a rough character. So this is after 5 days of hanging in Amsterdam, which also means 5 days of afternoon hangovers. So it's just we're all just kind of tired and sort of, we're ready to go home. We're done. We're done drinking and partying and all that. So Susan and I, we call a cab and we decide we're going to go home. And the cab comes, and Jim says, you know, I'll go home with you. He's from the States. We're like, oh, okay. So he hurriedly starts packing his stuff when we go down to the cab, and we get into the cab, and we're waiting. And we're like, okay, this is not going to take too long. And the cab driver says, well, this is Amsterdam, and you know the roads are narrow, and everybody's patient, and it's a one-way, you know, one-lane road in front of the canal where he lives. And the cab driver's very patient. Oh, this is Amsterdam. This is what we do. It's what we do. 10 minutes passes. 15 minutes passes. He's pissed off. So now we start doing laps. And Jim finally comes down with his guitar and all his stuff, and his hair is everywhere. And so we're like, I'm not too thrilled with Jim at this point because I want to get home, and I'm this kind of person that doesn't like missing flights. So we get in the cab, and as soon as we leave central Amsterdam, traffic. We're like, oh, shit. So I'm all wound up, and Jim is not wound up. He's perfectly fine. Jim is one of these friends who always encourages me to stop and smell the roses. And he's usually right. I always feel like I'm not going to have time for that, but he's usually right. So we hit traffic, and the cab driver's like, hey, there's traffic here, it's no big deal. And now we're really late for our flight at this point. And Jim decides to call one of his office mates, like, well, what's the best way around this traffic? This is before we had cell phones that had maps and everything in it. And he starts to proceed to direct the cab driver to get off at every single off-ramp, cross the intersection, and get back on every single on-ramp for 10 miles. So we finally get to the airport. I've had it up to here. He's a good friend, but I have to get home. I'm not getting, you know, whatever. So we pull up to the terminal. We go check in, and there's no line at all. There's just women saying, run, run, go, go, go. So we're like, okay, fine. So we check in really quickly. We run quickly. Jim's gone. I'm like, screw it. Screw him. He's made us late. It's his own funeral. So we run. We run to the airport. And by the way, Jim had given me a walking stick, like a one you buy at like EMS or at REI, like so it's this handle with a spike on it. And so this is just after 9/11, by the way. So now I'm screwed getting through the security because now I have this stick with a spike on it that I want to try to get on the plane. Thank you, Jim. So we run. We finally get to the gate, and then I get the full-on body search for drugs. Every single seam in my clothes. A Dutch army man is going through every single thing, and his odor is not very good either. So this is just not a good trip at all. So we finally get on the flight. Susan and I have middle seats. And I'm thinking, Jim did not make this flight at all. We left him in the dust. My wisdom prevailed. We're on the flight. We're going home. So we're in middle seats. It's just awful. It's crowded. And then, so I get to go to the bathroom like 2 hours later into the flight. And there's Jim at the bulkhead, shoes off, scotch in his hand. He has his own row. All right, fine. So, of course, I sit down next to him and have a scotch with him, but that's, you know. So we finally get back to Philadelphia, and we decided that Jim hadn't been in the States for a while, and he had a penchant for McDonald's McChickens. So we immediately went to McDonald's and got McChickens. We ordered 2 McChickens and fries or whatever. We go through the line, we pay, then we go to the second window, and we get our McChickens, and Jim says, hey, how about giving us some those orange shakes at the McDonald's? And they're like, okay. So we got free shakes. So this is just the luck that Jim has. So, and it's good. So anyway, so we sort of resolved our differences. I'm glad he made the flight, and everything was fine. So I get back to my house, we're in the driveway, and we're about to say goodbye, and he has, you know, 2 bags with him. He goes, which one do you want? I said, well, I don't, what are you talking about, which one do I want? He goes, you want the chocolate or the cheese? I'm like, what are you talking about? He goes, you rushed through the airport, you didn't get a chance to stop and get something from Amsterdam to take home. Chocolate or cheese? It's like, well, wait a minute. You stopped at the gift shop to buy a big round of Gouda and a big block of chocolate? He goes, yeah. So that was my faceplant moment. I should have stopped and smelled the roses and got some chocolate or cheese. I chose the cheese.